جی ہیلو السلام علیکم، آواز آ رہی ہے؟ ہیلو ٹیسٹنگ، ہیلو ٹیسٹنگ ٹیسٹنگ، ہیلو ٹیسٹنگ.
یہ لے آئے تھے ابھی تو نہیں لایا، ابھی لے آتا نہیں میرا مطلب یہ کہ کیسے چلاؤ گے؟ لگا دیا میں نے. اچھا
السلام علیکم ورحمۃ اللہ.
وعلیکم السلام، کیسے ہیں؟
الحمدللہ الحمدللہ خیریت سے ہیں.
اللہ کا شکر ہے. دیکھ نہیں رہے.
السلام علیکم جمال ڈاکٹر صاحب، السلام علیکم. اچھا السلام علیکم.
نہیں امید ہو گئی.
میوٹ ہو گیا. اچھا میوٹ کر لیا میں نے.
آ رہی ہے کیا آواز؟ آ رہی ہے.
السلام علیکم. شکل بھی آ رہی ہے اور
آواز آ رہی ہے زرین صاحب آپ کی؟
آواز آ رہی.
السلام علیکم.
السلام علیکم.
اور حضور مزاج بخیر؟
اللہ کا شکر. آپ بتائیں آپ کے مزاج کیسے؟
مرادی صاحب کیا ممکن ہے کہ کچھ روشنی آپ کے چہرے پر آ جائے؟ آپ کے چہرے پر اندھیرا ہو رہا ہے.
تھوڑا سا اس میں کچھ یہ جو ہے نا یہاں پر کچھ لائٹ عجیب سے پڑ رہی ہے. ذرا دیکھتا ہوں اس کو، ذرا بند کرتا ہوں. یہاں کچھ بند کرنا پڑے گا. تھوڑا سا یہ اس طرح سے شاید ہو جائے کچھ. اب شاید کچھ ٹھیک ہے.
ہاں بہتر ہے. کچھ
تھوڑا بہتر تو ہوا ہے.
اب بہتر
وہ پڑ رہا ہے.
تھوڑا بہتر ہوا ہے بس.
لیکن روشنی اصل میں آپ کے پیچھے سے آ رہی ہے، تو ادھر سے نہ آئے تو شاید کچھ بڑھے گی. روشنی تو آپ کے پیچھے سے آ رہی ہے جو آپ کے چہرے کو کالا کر دے رہی ہے.
میں کچھ خود کر رہا ہوں، یہ بند ہو جائے
تو ہے کالا. کیا وہ نہیں پردہ نہیں ہے ان کیا؟
जरा देखते हैं आप कुछ ठीक हो गया?
नहीं, कुछ ठीक नहीं हुआ।
कुछ प्रॉब्लम है लाइट में, लाइट का।
आपके बैक पर खूब लाइट है, चेहरे पर होनी चाहिए लाइट।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम व रहमतुल्लाह। कैसे हैं जनाब अली?
ये अल्लाह का करम। हुजूर 21 तारीख के वेबिनार में आपको खैर मकदमी कलिमात पेश फरमाने हैं।
पूरी बात बताइए, उसकी क्या है, वो कौन सी है, किस तारीख की?
मौलवी मोहम्मद बाकिर वाला जो वेबिनार है
मुझे तो कुछ मालूम नहीं है मौलवी मोहम्मद बाकिर के बारे में।
वो भेज देंगे कुछ आपकी खिदमत में।
भेज दीजिएगा, भेज देंगे तो ठीक हो जाएगा।
ठीक है, नोट फरमा लें आप। 21 नवंबर सुबह 10 बजे बरोज हफ्ता।
अच्छा
जी। अब वो हमने सोचा कि वो बार बार वही हो जाता है, दास्ताने इंस्टीट्यूट, तो बजाय उसके ये हो जाए खैर मखदूम के
हाँ,
कल।
नहीं वो इंस्टीट्यूट की जरूरत नहीं है, वो कवर कर लेंगे उसको। अब तो बहुत हो गया, अब क्या है, अब तो सब लोग जानते हैं।
जी 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 जी। अब क्या
नहीं, वो तो आए थे और लाइट ठीक करते करते।
21 से पहले आपका इधर आना है क्या?
नहीं भैया, मुझे नहीं कोई आने देता।
अच्छा सही है।
मुझसे ज्यादा मुतल्लिकीन परेशान है ना।
अरे मैं बहुत मुश्किल से आया हूँ, और अगर ये वेबिनार की के इंतज़ामी उमूर न देखने होते तो ये आने नहीं देती मुझे। आज भी कह रही थी।
नहीं, बात सच्ची है, क्योंकि अभी तक इसका जोर टूटा नहीं है।
जी जी जी।
अच्छा, हम सबसे ज्यादा मोस्ट क्वालिफाइड कैटेगरी में लोग
हाँ जी
हैं।
जी। एक तो ये जो प्रोग्राम शेड्यूल है जिसे मैंने तरतीब मजालिस कहा है, ये आपको अभी भिजवा देता हूँ। और इसके बाद मौलवी बाकिर पर एक अंग्रेजी में मजमून आ गया है, उसका नाम है मौलवी मोहम्मद बाकिर एंड हिज दिल्ली उर्दू अखबार इन रिवोल्ट ऑफ 1857। नहीं ये नहीं आया है, ठहरिए नहीं, दूसरा आया है। मौलवी मोहम्मद बाकिर और दिल्ली उर्दू अखबार 1857 की जंग आज़ादी के हवाले से। ये मैं भिजवा देता हूँ आपको।
प्लीज भिजवा दें।
हाँ, मैं आपको भेज दूंगा। इसे खामोश करना पड़ेगा। जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम। जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम। जी अल्लाह का करम नवाजिश फरमा।
अस्सलाम अब हो गया कनेक्ट सर? कनेक्ट हो गया अब?
बेहतर हुआ है माशाल्लाह।
चलिए बस ठीक है। हालांकि ये तो मैं मोबाइल पर ही कर रहा हूँ, उसमें हो नहीं, लैपटॉप वो नहीं हो पाया। Bismillah.
Hello.
जी जनाब।
Bismillah.
राम साहब।
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum.
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
Today we have with us Professor Hamid Naseem Rafiabadi, Dean, School of Media Studies and Head, Department of Religious Studies, former Dean, School of Social Sciences, Central University of Kashmir, and former Director, Shahi Hamadan Institute of Islamic Studies, University of Kashmir. Today he will be speaking on a book based on a book titled Islam and Knowledge, Al-Faruqi's Concept of Religion in Islamic Thought. This work is a real tribute to Faruq Al-Raji and by one of his students, Dr. Imtiaz Yusuf, who is Program Director, Department of Religion, Graduate School of Philosophy and Religion, Assumption University, Bangkok, Thailand. This is the third lecture based on the same book, and we welcome Professor Rafiabadi, and we hope that he will be bringing out the main features of this tributary book to Dr. Ismail Al-Raji. And before this, in the second lecture, he had spoken about the academic papers by students of Ismail Faruqi. Now, without any delay, I invite Professor Hamid Naseem Rafiabadi to initiate his lecture. Thank you.
A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Professor Zadam Khan Sahab, Professor Sayyid Jamaluddin Sahab, Dr. Manzoor Alam Sahab, and all good friends from iOS and elsewhere who are watching this program. This is the third lecture, as has been already mentioned by Professor Sayyid Jamaluddin Sahab, on the book which has been written or compiled and introduced by Professor Imtiaz Yusuf Sahab. And this book has been published by IB Tauris, London in 2012. And we had made 2 reviews of the book earlier, in which we have tried to bring some important aspects of the book to fore. And especially as Professor Jamal Sahab has rightly said, that these are the tributary articles to the great scholar of our times, Professor Ismail Raji Faruqi, who has made a history in a sense that he has given a new concept of integration of knowledge, which is very close in consonance with the traditional approach to knowledge, where we have a holistic approach to knowledge, integrated approach to knowledge. The book is dealing with various aspects of Tawheed, oneness of Allah or monotheism, Islamic beliefs in great detail. Although this book is basically on Ismail Raji Faruqi, but this book also discusses various aspects of Tawheed, because one of the important themes of Ismail Raji Faruqi's books has been Tawheed, especially his book Cultural Atlas, and a book on Tawheed is there. It has been said by Imtiaz Yusuf Sahab that that is Faruqi's concept of religion in Islamic thought was totally a part of the curriculum of Islamic studies in different universities of the world. One of the main features of his interpretation of Islam was its presentation within contemporary parameters. That's very important. He stood out as an Islamic scholar who never compromised on his premises. It can be observed that though he lived in the United States, he did not allow the US culture to influence him. Instead, he presented the Islamic perspective on life and Islamic culture to Americans. In his book, Ismail Raji Faruqi argued how a newborn child had Islamic traits. He differed with Imam Ghazali on several issues and held an independent point of view. So these points have been mentioned by Imtiaz Yusuf Saab. It can be said, according to John Wall, Georgetown University's professor of history, who delivered the annual Ismail Faruqi lecture at IIIT on August 26 to an audience of over 80 scholars, activists, and community leaders, that Ismail Raji Faruqi was a good case of the modern intellectual who was a believer and provided a good example for thinking about what it meant to be a believing intellectual in the modern era. He said these essays of this edited volume, divided into two parts, explore various dimensions and facets of the personality and academic career of Professor Ismail Raji Faruqi. In a nutshell, the contents of this volume highlight the intellectual legacy of Professor Faruqi, who was and still remains a brilliant example of intellectual personality of Islamic studies and Islamic intellectual awakening in modern times. The book sheds light on his reformative and scholastic efforts, succinctly, which resound and reverberate even today, and will continue to do so in the future as well. The work is indeed a real tribute to this great, legendary, and prominent figure. This volume is based, as we have already mentioned, on articles, memoirs, and intellectual assessment of the movement and the monumental works and erudite personality of Ismail Raji Faruqi. And very important personalities of Islamic world have contributed their articles to this volume. And most of them have been the students or the associates of Ismail Raji Faruqi. Even Imtiaz Yusuf himself had been the thought of Ismail Raji Faruqi. And we have Anis Ahmad, Yoshua Sodiq, Abdul Fatah Mohsin, and Fazl Mohsin Ibrahim, Charles Fitcher, Muhammad Saleh Yapar, Amina Bevari, MacDonald Ibrahim, M. Zain, Gisila Webb, and most of them are all Muslims, but there are many good names from non-Muslims. So these have been his students or his associates, and they have presented such an evaluation and assessment of Ismail Raji Faruqi based on their personal acquaintance and experiences while working with him under his guidance. Imtiaz Yusuf has the distinction of being the, as I mentioned, student of Temple University, where Raji was teaching, and has worked on Ismail Raji Faruqi for his research as well. This volume is based on articles, and it is interesting that in the last lecture, Dr. Manzoor Alam, the chairman of Institute of Objective Studies, said that the book under review was one of the several fine books written on Tawheed in the past few years. Because apart from discussing the facets of personality of Ismail Raji Faruqi, in this book, as I mentioned already, there is mention about his concept of Tawheed and Dinul Fitra. And in a new way, he has presented Dinul Fitra. Although before him, Imam Ghazali and Shahullah Dahlavi had talked about that. But the way Ismail Raji Faruqi has mentioned about Dinul Fitra, that is very unique in many ways. And that is sometimes very close to the Kantian view of noumena. And when he contrasts that with phenomena. So there is a philosophical nuances. I will not discuss those here. And it was Professor Afzal Awani Sahab. He in the last lecture had described Ismail Raji Faruqi as an eminent scholar, intellectual writer, and philosopher. His thoughts were based on his understanding of Islam with special reference to modern times. He said that Raji's approach to Islam was very relevant to the present times. Similar was the views of Professor Zaidam Khan Sahab when he just was presiding over one of the sessions, and he also expressed the similar views that Ismail Raji Faruqi is bringing Islam in a very, very pristine manner towards modern generation, and he is not losing the sight of modern challenges to Islamic studies. And we can say that in the words of Imtiaz Yusuf, there is a need to revisit the contributions of Ismail Raji Faruqi to find leads and develop new Muslim approaches to the academic study of religion and its areas of phenomenology and history of religion. So one of the important areas in the history of the religions of the world is phenomenology of the world and phenomenology of the religion. And what is the history of religion and comparative theology and interreligious dialogue. So Ismail Raji Faruqi was pioneer of these all aspects of this modern subject known as comparative theology and comparative religion. And he has employed philosophically critical and scientific tools without ideologizing Islam. This book serves the purpose of fathoming the kernel of Ismail Raji Faruqi's thought and personality, and presents the first-hand account of the contemporaries, students, and colleagues of late Ismail Raji Faruqi candidly. Part second of the book is academic papers by students of Ismail Raji Faruqi from chapter 10 to 20. Part second consists of 11 essays, papers, chapters, makes discussions on the thought and legacy of Faruqi, from his interpretation of the concepts of deen, religion, tawheed, ijtihad, Arabism, to the contribution to interfaith dialogue, world peace, aesthetics, and visual arts, etc. It begins with Imtiaz Yusuf's essay on Al-Faruqi's interpretation of the concept of deen or religion. For Al-Faruqi argues Yusuf, a Muslim monotheist ethical vision rooted in the Quranic view of deen is based on the principles of monotheism, universalism, tolerance, and life affirmation, and ethno-religious conflicts. It will facilitate Muslim partnering in the dialogue between religions, cultures, and civilizations. So he was not just a scholar, but he was also supporting interreligious and interfaith dialogue. And what can be the methodology of intercivilizational and interfaith dialogue that has been succinctly and astutely discussed and elaborated upon by Ismail Raji Faruqi, and that has been depicted in this book by Imtiaz Yusuf Sahab. Gasila Webb, who is one of the students of Ismail Raji Faruqi, she focuses on Faruqi's critique of art history, discourses in the West, and the nature, function, and value of Islamic arts. So this is a new area. And Kamal Kamruzaman looks into Al-Faruqi's contribution to interfaith engagement, ranking him among the chief contributors while looking into the salient features of Al-Faruqi's work, like Christian ethics and Islam and other faiths. So these are two important books which have been written by Ismail Raji Faruqi on Christian ethics and Islam and other faiths. And sometimes when we compare these two books with our classical scholars like Al-Biruni, Shahristani, Ibn Hazm, and Mullah Muhsin Fani, he stands out that his approach is more candid and methodologically very accurate, and which appeals to modern mind. In the final essay, Viviana Angelis focuses on the art and architecture of Philippine mosques and discusses that the mosque is an important example of Islamic architecture as well as a symbol of Muslim community identity. So although this paper is not very much related to Ismail Raji Faruqi, but since Ismail Raji Faruqi was very much interested in Islamic art, so this article is focusing on Islamic art and especially in the context of the Philippine architecture. So because they were being taught by Ismail Raji Faruqi about Islamic art, now some of his students have just gone to different parts and they have worked on Islamic art relating to their own countries and their own environments. Saleh Yapar throws light on the involvement of Al-Farabi Al-Faruqi, both in theory and practice in interfaith dialogue in North America, and argues that among dialogue partners, Al-Faruqi advocated an attitude of equality and candid respect, for he strongly believed in cultural encounter and religious engagement. There is a very interesting subject, because in most cases in modern times, Muslims were very much reluctant to indulge in any interreligious dialogue in most cases. And so far as intellectual, caliber and participation of Muslim scholars and intellectuals in interreligious dialogue is concerned, it is very, very, very minimum, I should say. Very minimum number of people have done this, because Muslims had not developed a methodology how to engage into dialogue or trialogue. So Ismail Raji Faruqi wrote a book, The Trialogue Among Abrahamic Faiths. So that was a methodological way how to engage into dialogue with the other partners. So he has talked about equality and candid respect. So we have not to go as the mute listeners of how the people who are busy in interreligious dialogue should dictate terms. No, we should have attitude of equality, and we should also have the respect when we are participating in such type of dialogues. At equal footing, we should be given the chance. So he just was participating in these dialogues with this understanding. And second, cultural encounter and religious engagement. So it should be cultural encounter. It should be not that there is one culture which is very supreme, or they are trying to civilize their dialoguing partners. No, it has to be cultural encounter and engagement, so that both the parties are able to contribute to the understanding about religions and religious thoughts, and also to make the world a better place, rather than being at a receiving end, and others may being at the, they might be just at the commanding end. So this is a very important point which has been mentioned by scholars like Saleh Bapa when he talks in this volume in his article about Ismail Raji Faruqi's engagement in interreligious dialogue. And there is one article in this book that is Amina Beverly MacLeod, and she throws personal reflections on Islamization of the social sciences, demonstrating that the object of social science is to form policies that ensure regulated welfare concerned healthy Muslim living. So this is not just an academic or scholarly demonstration only, but we have to reach to the policies. We have to make policies for regulating social sciences, and then we have to also take those social science subjects to be welfare concerned and healthy Muslim living. These all projects and these all reflections should lead to healthy Muslim living and welfare concerned schemes and regulations. So this was the concern of Ismail Raji Faruqi. He was not just interested in social science for the sake of academic, I should say, satisfaction or academic rendezvous, but it was for the sake of getting insights for welfare concerned healthy Muslim living. So this is a very important point which has been mentioned by Amina Beverly in her article in this volume. And then one of the very important students of Ismail Raji Faruqi, who was also the Dean School of Revealed and Revealed Knowledge at Islamic University, Malaysia, Professor Ibrahim Zain, he has focused on Al-Farabi's understanding of humanism and its relationship to the ethical discourse. And he argues that Al-Faruqi places humanity as an ethical concept in the hierarchy of values in the Islamic worldview. So very important point he has mentioned. And he says that this approach needs to be taken very seriously, that Ismail Raji Faruqi had a very, very clear vision about all these aspects so far as Islamic viewpoint is concerned, and especially the Islamic monotheistic viewpoint is concerned. And four main academic areas of Al-Faruqi were, as has been mentioned in this book, Islamic's history of religion and phenomenology of religion, Islamic educational movement and interreligious dialogue, intellectual legacy, a brilliant intellectual legacy, legendary of Islamic studies and Islamic intellectual awakening in modern times. And he was reformative and scholastic in his approach, and he had for that reason a very great impact. Now, if we just compare after some of the preliminary talks, if we compare him to Fazlur Rahman and Sayyid Hussain Nasr, so we find that these three were very important persons who were in the West, and the time was when Islamics was making an appearance as a field of study, research and discourse at the universities. So Ismail Raji Faruqi played a very important role. So far as Fazlur Rahman was concerned, he was also very important in the sense that he presented various themes in the context of modern philosophy and psychology while discussing Muslim thought. He also wrote on Muslim legacy of philosophy and scribed books on Ibn Sina, Mullah Sadra, and Sheikh Ahmad Sarandi, apart from Islamic history, prophecy, and social change, medicine, major themes of the Quran related to education, etc. But his focus was more on the lines of modernism than Islamism, while as Hussain Nasr was more inclined towards Islamic philosophy or Muslim philosophy and sciences of medieval times, and has not ignored sophistic, Irfani, Gnostic, and socio-cultural traditions of Iran. He wrote on Ibn Arabi, Sahrawardi, and almost all Muslim philosophers, and also did not ignore Muslim traditional sciences and investigation, and mostly concerned with philosophy of sciences. But his approach was parallelistic and mystical. Both of these scholars did not present any alternative to modern thought or philosophy, or they could not envisage a philosophy of Muslim education, which could run on parallel lines and make its mark internationally by challenging the basic paradigm of modern westernized education. Here we may mention Sardar along with Nasr, Sardar Ziauddin Sardar, as a general notion in the works of Nasr and Sardar is their understanding of Islam as a comprehensive order for the individual and society. Therefore, they strive to achieve a foundation for the establishment of an Islamic science. Despite the differences in their approaches, Nasr and Sardar considered Islam a complete code of life, shaping society and individual lives of people. Therefore, a science purely Islamic needs to be framed to meet such needs. So this was Hussain Nasr, Ismail Raji Faruqi, and Sardar. But when we compare these scholars with Ismail Raji Faruqi, Ismail Raji Faruqi was not just a modernist in the sense we see that, for example, Fazlur Rahman was, or he was not just an ideologue like we have Sardar. So he has given solutions to the problems, and he gave the methodological, inputs for making policies, for making the social sciences more, result-oriented for Muslims. And these people were trying to rather making Islamization approach confined to Muslim elite. It needs a wider universal interpretation to come to terms with the general understanding of its worldview. Thus, it could be said that it is implied that Islamization is a quest of ideology. The process of Islamization will start from epistemology or belief, and then it will encompass the society and the world at large, not vice versa. Islam as an ideology has just problems entailed with the very term ideology, which is man-made, therefore always fraught with various dangers, while as Islam is a faith. Here I side with Nursi against Iqbal, Maududi, and Shariti. In their perspective, the concept of a specific Islamic natural science is understood as a subsystem or subculture promoted by the all-embracing Islamic order of society. So Islamization does not emanate from society, but from faith. So very important point, because these people were laying much emphasis on society rather than faith, but Iqbal and Ismail Raji Faruqi and Dr. Ali Shariti and Nursi, they were laying much emphasis on faith. Islamization is in this way faith-based approach to, or the faith-based Weltanschauung. It is an ontology and Islamic worldview. We should not make Islamization to get reduced to a society category, social category, rather it should be considered a part of the faith movement, which Islam actually is in the real sense of the word. So this can be attributed to great extent to Ismail Raji Faruqi, in contrast to other scholars which I have mentioned, because there is mention of one article which has been published, written by Sayyid Hussain Nasr about Ismail Raji Faruqi, and he calls Ismail Raji Faruqi as a guerrilla scholar or an Islamic activist. And he says that he is not a dispassionate and disengaged scholar. So he's an engaged scholar. So this is a good point in a sense. So he was not a scholar or living in the ivory towers who has no relationship with the society. But important task which has been performed by Ismail Raji Faruqi was to engage with the society and help the society to come out with some solutions for its educational, cultural, and other problems, and even in some cases, the problems which Muslims were facing at cultural level. Sayyid Hussain Nasr and Ziauddin Sardar, we will find that they dislike each other. So they had some problem also. But so far as Ismail Raji Faruqi's approach was that he was trying to take all along and help them all in order to reach to some, basic, area or the basic parameter where from start. So it was for that reason, when he gave a lecture in Islamabad, all these people were present also in that lecture. At Makkah also, these people were present, and he tried to convince all of them for the Islamization of knowledge, which is nowadays known as integration of knowledge. Although his scholarship covered in this volume many aspects, but his contributions to academia, which played an important role in the creation of Islamic studies on very fresh ground, is yet to be assessed. So we need to work more on this subject. His contribution to the entire spectrum of Islamic studies and religion, including the study of phenomenology of religion, Islamic thought and approaches to knowledge, history, culture, education, interfaith dialogue, aesthetics, ethics, politics, economics, science, and women's issues, is worth consideration. So these are the very important issues which have been touched upon in this volume, but these need more and more studies, and research by the future scholars. This scheme of studies and introduction as a program at a university level in the USA and across the Muslim world mainly lay in 4 major areas. That is Islamics, the history of religion, phenomenology of religion, the Islamic educational movement in the modern age, and interreligious dialogue. So these can be subsumed as very important areas where Ismail Raji Faruqi has worked, and those areas have been covered in this volume. Finally, since actual being is good and it is the task of the people to realize the good, fulfilling the divine, then they ought to be and they ought to do all requirements of everyone, says Ismail Raji Faruqi. So when we are talking about the practical implications of interreligious dialogue or the social reformation, so he says there are 2 points. One is that ought to be and ought to do. So one is to be and second is to do. Thus, there is no discrimination between the ontological value of people. He concludes that this was something recognized and taught by Jesus and his earlier disciples, but not followed by the later Christian believers. In his Christian ethics, he talks about these issues also when he's engaging in, interreligious dialogue. While internal dialogue served the needs of Muslims, the second avenue for dialogue was for external purposes, in which Muslims engage with other faiths and ideologies. Aside from academic publications and conferences, Al-Faruqi participated in various public forums of dialogue in this respect. This area provided the basic for the interreligious relations. Since this is a key exposition of the application of his theory of interrelations, we offer this extensive quote, Islam's discovery of Deenul al-Fitra and his vision of it as the base of all historical religion is a breakthrough of tremendous importance in interfaith and interreligious relations. For the first time, it has become possible for an adherent of one religion to tell the adherents of another religion, we are both equal members of a universal religious brotherhood. Both of our traditional religions are de jure, for they have both issued from and are based upon a common source, the religion of God, which he has implanted equally in both of us. So that is upon Deenul Fitra. So this point has been highlighted by Professor Ibrahim Zain in his article. And he says further, rather than seek to find out how much your religion agrees with mine, if all at all, let us both see how far both our religious traditions agree with Deen al-Fitra, the original and first religion, rather than assume that each of our religions is divine as it stands today. Let us both cooperatively, wherever possible, try to trace the historical development of our religions and determine precisely how and when and where each has followed and fulfilled or transcended and deviated from Deen al-Fitra. Islam's breakthrough is thus the first call to scholarship in religion, to critical analysis of religious texts, of the claim of such texts to revelation status. It is the first call to the discipline of history of religion, because it was the first to assume that religion had a history, that each religion has undergone a development which constitutes that history. So this is a new approach to the study of religion, which has been highlighted in this volume by Ibrahim Zain. The idea of Deen al-Fitra became the cornerstone of his proposed system of interreligious discourse and the means for evaluation as to the closest approximation to the natural religion. And by recognizing and building upon core commonalities between religions, he proposed three broad areas of constructive dialogue. The first two involve education, as each religion, in this case Islam and Christianity, should become mutually aware, with each seeking to understand the other. So this is also one of the important points. And then Ibrahim Zain has mentioned other aspects of Ismail Raji Faruqi so far as Deen al-Fitra is concerned. In the area of Islamic thought, Al-Faruqi was much impressed by some Mu'tazilite thought, as has been mentioned by Imtiaz Yusuf. Although I have my own reservations about this, but so far as John Esposito is concerned, he says he was indefatigable, a bundle of enormous energy, who seemed like a relentless whirlwind. His profession was also his vocation. He was a man driven to scholarship and faith. He was one of the great multitaskers of his times, writing, speaking nationally and globally, running the Islamic studies program, recruiting students from across the Muslim world, establishing major Muslim organizations, and a think tank, the International Institute of Islamic Thought. So he had many things which has been mentioned by his students like Esposito in this volume. Indeed, even if we base our view only on these two masterpieces of Al-Faruqi, as we have already seen, reflecting the works in Tawheed and Atlas of Islamic World, the minds and the talents of some of the greatest Muslim scholars at work in the study of other religions, we can find that his approach is totally different from others, and which is in consonance with modern times. For example, we see in the works of Faruqi nuances of the astute contentions of Isa al-Waraq, the methodological approaches of Abu Rihan al-Biruni, the sharp disputation of Ibn Hazm, the philosophical argumentation of Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, and the intense analysis of Ibn Taymiyyah, to name but a few of the greatest in this field. It will not be out of place to proclaim that in the person of Ismail Raji Faruqi, the best Muslim scholarship in religious history comes to fruition, says Kamar Onaya Kamruzzama, one of his students in this volume. In the field of history of comparative religion, so his approach is unique in many ways. Ismail Raji Faruqi's espousal of certain kind of what one might call neo-Salafism, emphasizing the techniques of Ibn Taymiyyah and his students, and continuing with a rationalization which emphasized only the transcendence of God at the expense of his nearness and eminence, caused him to reject the whole tradition of Islamic philosophy, while emphasizing the sciences which were so closely well to it, as well as opposing most of the religious thought of both Shiaism and Sufism, says Hussein Nasr. So Hussein Nasr complains that since he does not believe in the eminence or the, I should say, nearness of God, but in the concept of transcendence, which was espoused by Ismail Ibn Taymiyyah, Hussein Nasr says that he rejected philosophical tradition and also Shiism and Sufism, but I do subscribe to this, as Ismail Faruqi has not denounced the whole tradition of Muslim philosophy. He has talked about Ghazali, he has talked about Ibn Sina, he has talked about Farabi, and he has talked about other stalwart Muslim philosophers, but his approach to philosophy was different from Hussein Nasr. Hussein Nasr's approach was paternalistic, where he believes that with the prophets, even the philosophers can be given also equal footing. Well as Ismail Raji Faruqi says that revelation is the basis of religion and reason is the basis of philosophy. So they may meet and they may not meet always. There may be differences in philosophical approach and religious approach, but according to Hussein Nasr, these converge at one place or another place. So Al-Faruqi praised Kant and then later connected his position with that of Ibn Taymiyyah by saying, as the great Kant has said, it is nonsensical to speak of an appearance without something that appears. Then he went to emphasize the Kantian position, which he claimed is similar to Ibn Taymiyyah's position. That is, God, according to this reasoning, would be established for knowledge, not as a primal cause or source of being or cosmo designer, but as a presupposition of axiology, as that without which valuational phenomenon would not and cannot be. So this is the point which has been highlighted by Ibrahim Zain. His great admiration for Ibn Taymiyyah and At-Tawhidi was reflected in his works and lectures at Temple University. At-Tawhidi and later Ibn Taymiyyah followed this tradition of linguistic hermeneutics in their understanding of both metaphysical and axiological issues within the Islamic framework. Ibn Taymiyyah, Tarutul Aql wa Naql, Riyaz. So this is about book which has been mentioned by Ismail Zain, Ibrahim Zain. And in this way, we can find that there's important scholars like Ibn Hazm, Al-Biruni, and Imam Ghazali and Ibn Taymiyyah, they have influenced Ismail Raji Faruqi, and he has not ignored the Islamic philosophical or scholastic tradition, and as has been alleged by Hussein Nasr. But his approach was based on revelation, not intuition or reason, as in case of philosophers and Sufis, we have that they base everything on intuition, philosophers base everything on reason, while as Ismail Raji Faruqi's emphasis was that revelation is the basis, wahy wal kaun. The 2 points which has mentioned that God reveals himself through his book, that is revelation, and kaun, universe, that's science. So in this way, the 2 men became, now so far as his relationship with people like Fazlur Rahman and Hussein Nasr is concerned, his relations with them, but there was some difference of opinion at many places. So I already discussed those all issues, while there was general agreement among the colleagues and observers that Al-Faruqi often discussed his ideas with remarkable eloquence and conviction. His expository style remained a subject of some difference and debate. Thus, while members of the School of Divinity at Chicago, according to Fazlur Rahman, regarded him as a guerrilla scholar, and Fazlur Rahman himself described him as a sort of Jamaluddin Afghani. Jamaluddin Afghani of his times, Professor Rolf says that Faruqi was emphatically stated that his style was not one of the deliberate provocation, confrontation, or proselytization, but techniques. So here we have to understand the approaches. So approach was, he was more interested in technique and methodology rather than the, I should say, some deliberate provocations or confrontations. So technique was such, method was such, where people may not agree with him or they may, but there was a process of thought. There was a analysis he had adopted. So for that reason, Brabantee continues, were not in his character, nor did the firmness of his commitment to Islam mean that he was antagonistic to the other 2 Abrahamic religions. On the contrary, he had formally studied Judaism and Christianity, respected them both, and understood the relationships among the three faiths. And it has been mentioned also by his student, Mudassir Abdul Rahim, that Al-Faruqi's proposed curriculum, however, was not implemented, and he soon became disappointed with Fazlur Rahman even at Karachi, because his approach was a little bit different from their approach in many ways. It was just to be implemented, not only just to discuss. So I look on the movement of Islamic knowledge as a manifestation of the Tawhidic, holistic, and epistemic paradigm in social sciences. It questions the dominant Western realistic model founded on the Western value system and conceptual framework of ultimacy of matter, ethical relativism, capitalist economy, and behavioristic functional or structuralist psychology and sociology, says Anis Ahmed, one of the very important colleagues of Ismail Raji Faruqi. And he has just also contributed an article, and in this article he has mentioned these very important points. And in simple words, it is Tawheed which provides the basis for all human creative thinking and transactions. Tawheed stands for the affirmation of transcendence, ultimacy, and authority of Allah as the creator of the universe and mankind. This is more than a theological construction. It's a matter of Tawheedic application of cosmic and human and cosmic levels. From a scriptural perspective, the presence of unity and cohesiveness in the cosmos, its regularity and precision points towards a unified cosmos and not towards a chaotic phenomenon, says Anis Ahmed. So in this way, in his article, he is trying to sum up what were the views of Ismail Raji Faruqi about the universe in the context of his Tawhidic Weltanschauung. And in this way, he has just presented his viewpoint about Tawheed in contrast to modern consumerist, westernized, and philosophical approach and materialistic approach to sciences and towards the world in modern times. So, taking all these articles together, as I have tried to cover almost all the articles which have been mentioned in this book or which have been published in this book, I am just now trying to conclude this whole discussion by saying that in this volume, Imtiaz Yusuf Saab has tried to take the maximum opportunity to approach all the colleagues of this Ismail Raji Faruqi and his contemporaries like Hussein Nasr and Anwar Ibrahim and Khurshid Ahmed and Professor Anis Ahmed and Esposito and his students, which I have mentioned, and also some people who belong to other faiths, their assessment of Ismail Raji Faruqi, and then his own assessment. And then he has tried to present a holistic view about the whole thought of Ismail Raji Faruqi and its nuances. And also it is, I should say, the sublime aspects. And then he has also told us that we need to work more and more on some of the aspects like Islamic art, like his Weltanschauung of Tawheed, and also his educational model and Islamization of knowledge, integration of knowledge, and especially the valuation of educational models in modern times. And this is, in this sense, a very great tribute to Ismail Raji Faruqi. And such book should be translated into Urdu as well, and in Arabic language as well. And it should be translated into other languages also, because this gives a very vivid and very, very, I should say, authentic introduction to the whole movement of Islamic knowledge, integration of knowledge, and the, I should say, the precepts for which IIIT or this international movement stands for. And this book, in that sense, is trying to meet almost very important requirements of understanding Ismail Raji Faruqi from his critiques, as well as from his friends, from his colleagues, from his contemporaries, and from the researchers from belonging to other denominations who have worked under him, who have seen him and his methodology, and who were trained by him. In this way, this is a very, very comprehensive and very, very holistic approach to the personality and work of Ismail Raji Faruqi, which has been produced in a very, very good language and very, very full value language. And his style is very good also. And there is a good methodology he has adopted. And this book has to be made accessible to all the people who are interested in Ismail Raji Faruqi and his monumental work, and especially who are interested in integration of knowledge, because all the areas have been covered in this book, and with which Ismail Raji Faruqi has dealt throughout his very long academic career, and also his practical activities have been chronicled, and also his works for assembling the best minds of Islamic world at USA, who could lead their countries and their communities while back to their own communities. So that all has been mentioned and established with proofs and with the authenticated information from the people concerned who were closely and remotely associated with Ismail Raji Faruqi and his movement of integration of knowledge. With these words, I once again take Institute of Objective Studies, and Dr. Manzoor Alam Saab, Professor Zadam Khan Saab, Professor Sayyid Jamaluddin, and all the associates and I should say the workers of this institute, great institute, who have provided me this chance, and I was able to present my views on this very sublime topic, and I have been given chance to present my views in 3 lectures, and this was really a great honor to me, and that they trusted me, and I have tried to do justice to this subject, although it's a very vast subject, but whatever I could do, I have tried, but still there is scope to improve upon this review and write more and more on such subjects. Thank you very much.
Professor Hamid Naseem Rafiabadi Sahab, for a brilliant review of the book Islam and Knowledge, Al-Faruqi's Concept of Religion in Islamic Thought, in which Dr. Imtiaz Yusuf has revisited Al-Faruqi, Al-Raji Faruqi, and it's a collection of 4 articles which his former students, colleagues, and associates have written, and noting down their impressions and interpretation of Faruqi's intellectual makeup and his academic contribution. And Professor Rafiabadi has brilliantly put forward what was the methodology which Al-Raji Faruqi followed in order to write his thoughts on Islam. In fact, his thoughts were deeply rooted in the Holy Quran, and his tremendous knowledge of Arabic sources to which he had access made him write what he wrote. And Professor Rafiabadi is right to point out that for anyone who wants to familiarize himself with Faruqi's intellectual outputs, he should read this volume which he has so kindly reviewed for the Institute of Objective Studies and for our web audience. With these words, I once again thank Professor Hamid Naseem Rafiabadi Sahab, who always volunteers to write on areas on which others hesitate to express their views. But he is always there to express his views. Now, with these words, I request our web friends to put their questions, or if they have any observations to make, they are welcome. I don't think if he has there in any discussion about how Faruqi ensures that the idea of Islamization of knowledge that he puts forward can be understood correctly by different religious groups. Is Faruqi also talking about Islamophobia and environmental issues?
Basically, during his time, these issues were not very prominent. Now these have become very important. But when he's talking about Tawheed, so he has taken care of environment also. So how the Tawheedic Welton Chong or the worldview is creating an environment where there is balance. So he talks about environmental balance, but he is not talking about the environmental degradation or the crisis which we have nowadays. During those times, it was not that much, I should say, crucial. But now it has become very crucial. But he has at least alluded to those aspects in his book about Tawheed and its implications. And he says that what type of atmosphere, what type of cosmic understanding of the universe is formed by Tawheedic Welton Chong. So he talks about that and how a beautiful balance can be brought in the world through this belief of Tawheed. So, but he has not discussed that in the context of Islamophobia or environmental degradation. Those days, Islam was not that much being hated as in modern times, Nozbillah, I should say, it is being hated and it is there, a lot of propaganda is being made, tarnishing and maligning and malicious campaigns which are motivated or being launched against Islam. And during that period, people were ready to listen about Islam also. And most of the people from East and Oriental countries were going to USA, to European countries, Western countries, because they were welcomed there. And they were getting good, I should say, atmosphere, environment there. They were just studying there. They were going for job and they were feeling at home in West. But later on, it is because of clash of civilization and then 9/11 and other such type of unfortunate episodes, that lot of mistrust has been created among the Westerners and Muslims, and lot of Islamophobic propaganda and campaigns have been launched. So during his time, it was not that much, glaringly present. So, but still, he has touched some of the aspects so far as environment is concerned.
Any other question? Now, since we are not getting any more questions, I will request our esteemed Secretary General and a very reputed scholar, and he has also studied Ismail Al-Raji Faruqi and has presented his views in a similar kind of review session here at the Institute. Now I request Professor Zedam Khan to give his presidential remarks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Professor Jamal, for these kind words. Let me at the outset congratulate Professor Naseem Rafi Abadi to cover almost everything that is required under the heading he is speaking on. Raji Al-Faruqi is important in many, many respects. And to me, what is very important is, and this point has been mentioned by Professor Naseem Rafi Abadi, that he should be looked into as a engaged scholar. He is not sitting in an ivory tower and trying to project philosophical nuances of Islam, but he is trying to make Islam as a philosophy relevant to modern times. So this linking of times is very important in terms of Al-Raji Al-Faruqi. And he's not simply linking the time, he is also trying to make it a comparative exercise in regard to other world religions, Semitic religions in particular. So, I mean, the Islam and Muslims in the modern times, as Ismail Al-Raji Faruqi has seen, actually is in a survival syndrome. And, everything coming to the world in terms of the philosophy of Islam has to be put in a very, very careful manner. Otherwise, so much cobwebs are there, so much confusion is already created all around that it is generally misunderstood. So his effort was that he should try to make things simple, try to make things contextual, which seems more important in terms of solving the problems of humanity as such. And that is why he's not simply emphasizing the content of Islam, but also बेटा मैं वेबिनार में हूँ, I am in webinar, I will call you. I'm sorry, I got disturbed. I got a call from Saudi Arabia, so I apologize them. So I was trying to make a point that Al-Raji al-Faruqi was very emphatic in terms of making Islam as not only a philosophy, but as a solution to very many problems of modern times. And that is why, Naseem Rafi Abadi Sahib is very right in calling him as an engaged scholar. Secondly, if you look at from the point of view of democratization of knowledge, he was trying to make it simple in terms of being understood by common man, not only the philosophers. Philosophers have given their interpretations all along, but he is also trying to make it applicable to the situation and conditions of modern life and modern mind. Along with it, he is also trying to emphasize higher values of Islam, which is based on the concept of unity of mankind and unity in all respects. Unity of knowledge, unity of mankind, unity of universe, unity of
life.
God also. So the views of other great scholars are apart from these things. And if you look at it, he is trying to make it a living solution for the problems which are being faced by the humanity at large. So Islam is being presented as a solution, not as a problem. If it comes as a solution, then a new kind of awakening is required. Because if you look at the time span of development of Islamic thought, you will find that most of the effort in Islamic field is on the side of explaining the philosophical aspect of it, and then all kinds of fiqh and other areas, tafsir and hadith and all that. But if you bring it to the solution as a solution to the problem of humanity, then the whole context becomes important. And Al-Raji Faruqi is trying to do the same thing, that he's trying to present Islam not as a problem, but as a solution to the modern mind and modern calamities and modern shortcomings. So I must congratulate in the end to Dr. Naseem Rafi Abadi. He is always willing to cooperate with the Institute of Objective Studies, and we have got great regards for him on this. He is working very hard on many, many themes, including this theme of integration of knowledge. And he has been representing the Institute and the university and India in a way in many, many international conferences. where he has been acclaimed as a very prominent person in the area of Islamic studies. And I must also thank Jamaluddin Saab. He is also trying to give his time and devoting his energy to the cause and propagation of Islamic values to the modern mind. Whatever little Institute of Objectivist Studies is doing, he is very actively and very sharply participating in all these and giving his time. May God give him the strength and ability to serve the community and the nation in a better way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words. Professor
Jamal
Rafi
Saab.
Abadi, Professor Rafi Abadi deserved these observations which you made. I thank on behalf of myself and the Institute and all our web friends, Professor Rafi Abadi for his brilliant review. And I should mention that our chairman, Dr. Muhammad Manzoor Alam Saab, always keeps us, his colleagues, his friends, engaged in academic discussions. And this activity goes unstopped. And he's not tired of giving ideas. And we are also, we have now built up enough courage to carry on and carry out what he wants us to do. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.